wrong show's on. Good afternoon. I'm Doug Holder here, and I'm with my guest, Nina Rubinstein Alonso. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nina Rubinstein Alonso's poetry has appeared in Plowshares, The New Yorker, Bagel Bars. You should have had the Bagel Bars before The New Yorker, don't you think?
Definitely.
Yes. Ibbotson Street, The New Boston Review, Mom Egg, UMass Review, and her stories are in the Southern Woman's Review, Pushcart she's been a Pushcart nominee and Broadkill Review. David Godine's Press, and I think David Godine's Press just had a Nobel Prize winner recently. Yeah, just recently, yeah. Published her book, The Body.
This Body.
This Body. She has a new magazine, Constellations, which I've been really proud to be in, fine magazine, and directs the Fresh Pond Ballet in Cambridge. Not only is Constellations a great magazine, just to mention that Ibbotson Street 37 is out with a wonderful self-portrait by Melissa Shook, who's taught at UMass.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful issue.
Beautiful issue. So Constellations, those are the two great magazines here in our area. So Nina, first of all, you have a very interesting name, Nina Rubinstein Alonso. Give us a little of the background there.
Okay, the Rubinstein.
Part Jewish, part Spanish. Right?
Well, it's a story. My background is Jewish, Russian, Ukrainian, Polish.
Okay.
And go back to the grandparents, and they fled Russia, Ukraine, many, many moons ago. The Alonso is my late husband, Fernando. Mm-hmm. So I keep those two because they identify me in a way that means something to me.
And you have and reading your poetry, you've written about Spain, and you seem to have a great affinity for the area.
Yeah, we spent some months there traveling. It was a great privilege to have months to wander around Spain, and we went over into Tangier in Morocco. But it really made a deep impression on me, and we went all over the place. Mm-hmm. It was some years ago, though.
Some years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were published by the distinguished David Godine Press.
Yes.
And it was called This Body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your book and, how was it working with Godine?
Well, he was great. But I got to David Godine's Press, and they were extremely cordial and very helpful. And I was at to me, it's a very early book. I have other books that I haven't put together yet, but I was working with two wonderful writers at Brandeis University, where I was studying also, Howard Nemerov and Alan Grossman. And
Alan Grossman died recently.
He died
recently.
From
around here, yeah.
Yes, he was a fantastic writer. Yeah. And he was also a scholar of enormous encyclopedic genius. The guy was amazing. But he was tremendously supportive of me. And one of the things I liked about both of those writers is that they didn't try to make you like them. They were respectful that you were you, and very supportive of I was not the easiest graduate student because I really wanted to be, I was an artist first, and they helped me. So instead of doing a PhD thesis, you could still at that time in Brandeis do a book of poetry or novel or a collection of plays, which various people did. I don't think you can do it anymore. Mm-hmm. But then we could, and they put me in touch with David Godine, who liked the book and published it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a great small press. I had him in the Somerville News Writers Festival, and so that was to your credit.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, I noticed in an interview, because you taught for a while at UMass and
yes.
Where else?
A number of years. I taught at UMass and at Brandeis.
Okay.
While I was there.
And you said you were saturated with academia. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, I think maybe it's different now, but it was a very high-pressure environment, and they were looking for more people who were interested in writing literary criticism. Mm-hmm. And my field is fiction, short fiction, poetry, and dancing. So it was just, I love the teaching. I still like teaching. I probably always will. But I didn't want to write scholarly papers. Mm-hmm. So that was a mismatch. And also, I'm not into the political interactions that are part of any academic community.
Do you have a PhD?
Yes.
Okay. And you were on a tenure track?
I was, yeah, and it didn't work out for me.
Okay.
I was there for a number of years, and I didn't fit the situation, what they needed, and I was ready to leave. If I'd gotten tenure then, I think I was going to leave anyhow. Mm-hmm. I was going to ballet classes, skipping out on faculty meetings to go dance, writing poetry, and that's where I was at. And teaching was great, but the rest of it I just didn't want to do.
How was it for a woman in the 70s in academia?
It was tough, because it was early in the days when they had any respect for women as part of literary tradition. So if I proposed a class on women writers, and I was grilled and cross-examined mightily, they finally let me do it, but it was with the greatest of skepticism and with a lack of respect.
Well, didn't recognize women writers as part of the canon? I mean, Emily Dickinson and...
Maybe Emily Dickinson, some of the famous novelists, or Edith Wharton, or you go over to Britain, and they're great novelists, but it just, they didn't have their head together that there was a tradition of women writers. And I think that what happened to many writers, fortunately not all, is they got dropped out of the canon, and so nobody knew they existed. It's still happening that people will discover someone who's been dead for 100 years and they were a great writer. I can't give you examples right now. It's just the consolidation of a core canon of English literature excluded almost 100% women, with the exception of Dickinson, Wharton, and some of the
Sexton. Was Sexton big then, or she was just coming out of?
Sexton was coming in, and that era was also what I call the era of the brilliant suicide poets.
Right.
So you have Sexton.
I am a poet. I want to commit suicide. Right.
Well, it was a very tortured setting. It was just. I think there's a lot to it. I don't want to reduce it at all, but there was something very unhealthy about the environment for a lot of writers at the time, and women.
Yeah, I remember interviewing Lois Ames some years ago,
really?
and she told me that. Well, she told me that that Plath and Sexton used to talk about their suicides, how they were going to kill, and actually Sexton was angry when Plath committed suicide first and wrote a poem about it. So it seemed to me a little whacked.
They were very depressive. They were in a very constrained situation, and it's horrifying when you think of Sylvia Plath walling herself off in the kitchen and turning on the gas where her children are in the next room.
Right. Did you see that movie about it? Did you thought that was well done? Or?
I don't think I saw it.
You didn't see Plath, okay.
No, I don't think so. But there was something, it speaks for that era as to how restricted women were and how difficult it was to be an entity as a woman writer.
Yeah, it was as someone told me from that era, that was revolutionary to get out of the kitchen. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the ads from 50s, 60s, even 70s, the stereotypic cultural compression is so intense. There's it still goes on. I mean, when you think of the politics today and how they deal with Hillary as opposed to this fleet of crazy Republicans who are out there, pardon me, any lovely Republicans out there, but it's crazy. There are 13 Republican men bouncing around out there. And the lack of respect and the way they write about the woman is just not how they write about a man.
Now, the poet, so you were on the Fresh Pond Ballet.
Yes, that's my business.
Do you have a website for that?
I do.
What's that?
freshpondballet.com.
So, and you've done that for a number of years.
Oh, many years.
Yeah.
I taught at Boston Ballet for 11 years. After I left UMass, I was at another dance place for a while, and then I that place closed down, and I went to Boston Ballet, and by a series of curious incidents, I ended up teaching there. I danced
Did you
there
dance
a little,
professionally for ballet?
not for long, because I was injured. I was already injured and, quote, old, because it's a young
Well, like
person's
30
game.
years old, you're old.
You're done.
Yeah.
So I had injuries. I had a hip injury. I had an ankle injury. I won't even bore you with the details. So just say I was in an auto accident, and I hurt my back. So it's by coincidence, I happened to be around when someone else was out sick.
Yeah.
And I started filling in. I taught at Boston Ballet for 11
Right.
years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I left there, I kind of backed into opening my own school. I really didn't plan it, but it just worked out that way, and it's a good match for me.
How does the ballet inform your poetry and other writing?
There are times, and I write about ballet, but the thing about ballet is that you're speaking French most of the time. The language of ballet is French, and it's nonverbal. So it's highly expressive, but it's highly refined technically. So I sometimes wonder myself why I'm so incredibly nonverbal in that area and incredibly verbal in this area. It's just two things that feel right to me. I don't know how to, if that answers your question or not.
Yeah. Now, the poetry I read that you sent me,
Camera works.
Nightingale Notes, seems stripped down to the bare bones. And do you feel that gives the poetry more power? Maybe you don't agree. I just felt
I don't know what you mean. It's just
it's stripped down word. I mean, it's power.
Very,
it's economy of words there.
Yes, I'm very strict at what I think holds meaning. I don't like language that's too common. I think it's like Kleenex. It's the patois of the day. It won't last. So until I work a poem and it feels like I can't push it anymore. That's maybe why it feels stripped down, because I'm push it to where I want to get it. It says what I really mean it to say.
Okay. So each word means something. There's no wasted words.
No, I don't like filler. And one of the reasons.
Do you see that a lot in poetry? Filler?
Oh yeah.
Even among the better poets?
Depends who we're talking about. And some people are comfortable using language that's not exactly cliche, but close. It's common speech, and it can be done well, or it can be very empty and very, I don't know. It doesn't hold up. It won't hold up as language, and the poems are porous in mind, but that's me. It's very subjective what makes a poem feel complete. And if I always write, and then I've set it aside. I'll set it aside for months, sometimes years. Come back, clean it up until it's right. That's why it takes me so long to write.
Now, there was a poem, I believe.
The Nightingale Notes is especially like that.
Yeah. There was one poem, Pilgrim, taking place in the Pilgrim Cafe, and where was that in the Pilgrim Cafe? Yeah, it was.
Pamplona Cafe?
No, in Spain. The Pilgrim, I believe it was.
No, the word pilgrim isn't there. I don't know what it was.
Let me see right here. Pilgrim Cafe.
Oh, that's part of Nightingale Notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, and from what I'm reading, it seems that in the poem, you're at first you're talking about this very traditional sort of old European sensibility, and then suddenly you have this Hollywood images come up. And I'm wondering if you're talking about the new world versus the old world, and
well, it's more like that's the way places are, especially when I was in Spain then.
When was that?
It was in the 70s.
Yeah.
And we're in Santiago de Compostela, which is a pilgrimage site. People walk the route of, some people walk barefoot the whole many miles and have a very sacred path to go to this place. But you go to a cafe, have a café con leche, and there's this TV playing, and that's what's on the TV is some cowboy flick from the States.
Right.
dubbed or not dubbed.
With stereotypical Indians and all
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff.
complete nonsense.
Yeah.
And that's part of the world of Santiago de Compostela. It's
Oh, okay.
there. That was in the
So
town.
did you view it as being infected?
Infected?
Infected by crass?
No, I
No.
just think that's the texture culturally.
Okay.
That there's no culture that is monolithic and consistent.
Interesting.
It's
yeah.
all broken up.
So you weren't being judgmental then?
Not
No.
really.
No. Okay.
Not really. Just saying, like, it was just ironic. Maybe.
It was ironic. Yeah, the irony there.
Yeah.
Now you're running the Constellations magazine. How long has that been going on?
We're working on our 5th issue right now. So
Now, when you
this
say
will be
we, did you found it?
I found it.
You found the
I'm
magazine?
the editor, and I can't. Jack Miller, who's also a tremendously fine poet, is the technical consultant, and he does all the tech work because that's not my area at all. And he puts the magazine together. I decided on the.
I can
cover.
attest that you're a Luddite with technology.
Huh? Yeah. Technology, I couldn't do this, what he
Right.
does. But I select, it's my choice who I choose.
Oh,
And
right.
Part of the reason I wanted to do Constellations is to make a poetic community that feels authentic to me. Because there's such a huge, I don't know, there's so many people writing. And the spectrum is from the most quasi-literate to the most refined. It's all over the place.
And where do you place yours?
I don't know. I'm trying to do something that has a feeling of permanence and truth about it. And
Are you
maybe
happy
some
with
beauty.
what you've had so far?
I think we've published some things I feel very good about.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm waiting for more good stuff for this issue because it's a lot of dreck.
Oh yeah.
But I've got some wonderful stuff too. I've got
Yeah.
some wonderful stuff, and some of the things that are sent in, I'm like, okay, everybody has a right to write whatever they want, and they can be learning, but I go crazy when people send in things. It's not even, they're punctuation errors, typing errors, spelling errors, and it's just thoughtless stuff. So, okay.
If you want to get in your magazine, at least have a clean manuscript.
Yeah,
More
and
than
have
that.
something to say. I mean, otherwise it's, I don't know what to call it. People will just write. And they're just, the line between what makes art and what makes therapy gets too thin for me.
Yeah, I mean, so like if someone says a doctor, no one would expect that you can suddenly hand you some tools and you do surgery, and,
No.
and why would one think that one can just
But
go and be a writer?
People do.
Yeah.
They think because they've expressed themselves and gone through the battle of words that it's what it's supposed to be. They don't realize how much work goes into something that's really considered art.
Well, let's hear your art.
What would you like me to read?
Whatever you want to read.
All right.
By the way, where can we get a copy of Constellations? Are they available
It's
at the
on
Grolier
Amazon.
bookstore?
It's not at Grolier yet because of this winter. I never got to Grolier because it was so bad. I should take it there. They've had many in the past, and Harvard Bookstore.
Harvard bookstore.
But they are all on Amazon.
Okay, so you can order them on Amazon.
You can order them on
Okay.
Amazon. So,
Thank you. So go get to read.
all right. This is kind of a 60s poem, and it's about, since now marijuana is being legalized in our fair state, I thought it would be fun to read this one. This is called Cloud High. Flying high, he starts throwing things at the ceiling. It's an old apartment. No one cares. We're flinging paper plates and Carol's beret and a stale bagel and Bob's dirty socks, amused that nothing stays up. The force of gravity still works, yanking things down, except us beaming skyward on fuzzy green clouds. So it's just the old days of when was just light and fluffy and, I don't know, a moment of no one caring, just fun.
Robert Creeley once told me in an interview that he said to someone else, he said, we should remind them that it's fun to write poetry too.
Yeah.
It's just not like a...
It should be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you shouldn't work your ass off, because you should. But if it isn't joyful, what the hell is it,
Right, you're not doing it for money.
No, it's got to have some depth to it.
Right.
Or you're just, I don't know.
Right.
Write in your journal, but don't call it art yet. Take time.
Right.
This is about a friend of mine who's an artist now in Australia, a fine artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Heather's Spiders.
Nina Rubinstein. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Sure. Heather's Spiders. Her spiders are marvels, poised on paper like hairy dreams, ready to spring but painted firm to the surface, coiled, boiling, but motionless because she traps them, hypnotized, each trembling color, earth glories clinging to a stone wall, while dragonflies hover, neither maudlin nor deadly, but tamed by the artful hand, balanced for a moment, see two blades of light on the frail lip of a rose, wings rising over dims and ditches of paradise. When did I give up trying to make it another way? Who am I to block the bulge of a wave, perfect as it is, ballooning over the seawall, crooning the wild notes it has always sung? This one is about a ballerina I know, whose name I will not mention.
Okay.
Out of respect for her. She was a wonderful dancer. But this is called Swan Sandwich.
Is that a swan song?
Well, she was a fabulous swan queen. She was just a beautiful dancer. However, this was at Boston Ballet, and it was lunch. So, slim ballerina sits hunched in wool warmers, scowling because he brought her a submarine sandwich. Thick cheese on a lumpy roll, slippery sliced tomatoes, lettuce dripping mayo. Her swan eyes send arrows of fire as ex-prince walks to the office, his performing days over, ignoring her royal wishes like any other nasty husband. He knows I hate submarine sandwiches, she says. Clear what she doesn't want, red rage sputtering. So I'm waiting for her to fling it at him or toss it in the trash. But she must be hungry. Just took a big bite. That really happened.
You got to maintain your weight. Your ballet.
She was skinny as a rail.
Yeah. Anorexic.
No. I knew anorectic dancers. Very scary stuff.
Yeah.
I knew one dancer who wouldn't brush her teeth with toothpaste because it had calories.
Oh my God.
That's how crazy it got.
Yeah, I know. Since I've worked in the psychiatric field, I've experienced
You've
it.
run into
Yeah.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember one who was on death's door and asked me how many calories a tuna fish sandwich had.
Sure. Perfectly sensible to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And people who could barely walk crawling into a ballet class and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
not good. This one is about my first trip to India, and it's called First Meeting, and it's meeting a guru for the first time. And it was dark. We arrived, took a train. It was pitch dark. We were in a rickshaw, arriving at an ashram gate.
Mm-hmm.
In blackness, there's nothing but a gleam through a locked gate. Soft whispering in Hindi. The rickshawala tells us someone will be coming. He lifts his lantern as the gate opens, and a small man walks from shadow. His eyes pierce. Take in with a glance what I have no voice to say, my heart, my heavy secrets. Come back tomorrow, he whispers, and points toward the road, a thicket of trees rippling with fireflies. Everything feels familiar, as if I've been here before, lived in this place. In what life or which body, I have no idea. I only know this is home. Do we have time for a couple more?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Oh, good.
And even if the show goes off the air, we always, for the sake of the tape, we let you finish the poem.
That's nice. Because I've got a few more. I didn't know how to time them. So I didn't time them. I just brought a bunch of poems.
We're pretty informal here, so community access TV.
That's good. This is called Frogs. And it also echoes back to the last part. It's about India. But you wouldn't know it if I didn't say so. So, frogs. Barriers and signs lead past waterfalls, past caves, past ravines, to plastic shiny vistas, spotlit dazzling resorts, top-dollar chlorine pools, people sunset happy, drinking alcohol blue air. I'd rather walk shaggy fields with my flashlight, looking for frogs that croak life, life, life inside the muddy dark. Last time I was in India, there was this superb frog. Superb frog. This is about people I knew who are no longer alive in Cambridge. One, Louise Bogan I knew her from Brandeis. She's
The artist?
a wonderful poet.
Oh, I thought she was an artist. I'm sorry.
Louise Bogan, she's a wonderful writer, somewhat sad woman in some ways, but
Why was she sad?
she's depressive.
Oh. She lived in Cambridge?
She was a visiting scholar at Brandeis for a year, and she lived in some hotel. It's now part of Harvard. The building where she stayed near Harvard Square is now part of Harvard dorms, but it was then an independent building where she
had a room? Yeah.
She had an apartment.
Yeah.
And we spent many cups of tea together. She was very helpful. Although
When did she die?
I can't remember. Not that long ago. Anyhow, the other person in this poem was Patsy Hoffman, who was a painter, and she passed away, and Miguel Gusil's was a goldsmith in Harvard Square. Anyhow, I was very close to all three of them.
They're all gone.
All gone. Then, I don't know if you know the Pamplona Cafe in
Yes.
Josefina Yanguas.
It's still there now.
It's still there, but she's not. She's gone too.
What's her name?
Josefina Yanguas.
Yeah.
And she created that cafe. She came from Spain and created this incredible...
You know, Steve Glines used to be a waiter there in the 70s. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't run into him then.
Yeah, he looked different. Huh.
It's funny.
Yeah. Had hair, I think.
Anyhow, this is called The Famous Sky, and it's really about these people. 3 Cambridge ghosts sit at a table while the moon rolls its pasty pearl through a scrim of phantom cloud. Patsy sips cappuccino, tilting her head at a sketch that's almost but not quite done. Miguel holds a gold angel with wings he hammered too wide, wondering who might buy it. Louise revises and erases, rewrites and arranges words. I'm lonely in this world of mist, seeing friends who can't see me, deaf to my voice, my tears, none believers in much beyond nature wrecker of bones, no blessing on the pieces. Soul a balloon of mind, a silken flag on the wind, not a carpet to ride home. About death they'd agree, it's wider than a table and emptier than the famous sky.
Thank you very much for being on Poet to
Thank
Poet.
you for having me.
Writer to Writer.